What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another Blueprint to C++ tutorial series where we're working on our plugin for our inventory system. And this is the second half, or part B, or however I decided to label it, of moving the world item and interactable widget into the world. So by the end of this video, you will have the final results of what we see in front of us here. All right, so let's jump right back into it, huh? So because of the complexity of the world item, we can't come in here and just reparent it. We're going to get several errors. A lot of things aren't going to work. So we need to make a few changes in here. First, I'm going to come in here and I'm going to delete all of this. We don't need this anymore. We just put that inside the C++. I'm going to come over here. I'm going to delete these variables. We already accounted for these variables. We got quantity, despawn time, and item. So I'm going to delete all three of these. You're going to get it's in use. Do you want to delete it? Yes, that's fine. We'll end up getting some errors, and the places they're being used is out in the objects we have out in the world. I'm going to click yes here, and it's these that we're using them. So it still shows it here. We haven't compiled anything yet. With that, I'm going to come down to the content browser. Inside the plugins, C++ classes, and inside items, we have our base item and we have our world item. And I'm going to right click on base item, and I'm going to create a C++ class derived from base item. I'm going to call this base food item. I'm going to make sure it is in my plugin runtime and that it's within the folder items, and select create class. Okay, and we get our familiar error. So I'm going to come over here. I'm just going to delete the path there. And in the H file, in the U class, I'm going to make this abstract, but I'm going to make it blueprintable as well. You can see here, we're getting an error here, U-base item. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to remove this include. Then I'm going to come down here and I'm going to have it put the whole thing in here for me. And then after that is done, I'm going to create a public section, and it's going to be int32, and I'm going to call it health. This is what we did in our original class. I'm going to give a default value of 1. And because it derives from our base class, our base item class, I'm going to go virtual void use item implementation override. So that way each food item will have access to this function as well. So let's go ahead and implement this now, give it a definition, and we want to call the super use item. Right now, I'm just going to print some information, U inventory statics, print screen, text. And again, if you didn't see one of my first videos, you're not going to have the U inventory statics. Go watch one of the first videos in this series and you'll see where we created our static class to make this process a little bit easier for ourselves. And I'm just going to type, please override this function in derived classes. Okay, I'm going to give an F color of red, and I want it to display for 10 seconds just so you can see it. So if you don't implement this inside of blueprints, then it's going to call this and you're going to see it. Just make sure you don't make a callback to the parent on this for this particular use item, okay? Or you can just simply delete this. I just did this so you can remember to implement it. Once you implement it, then go ahead and delete this, because you may have to make a callback to the parent or the great parent, the base item, but you shouldn't have to. Anyways, with that, now we're done with the food item. So head back into the editor after you compile it. Okay, you can see we got a bunch of errors in here. Not too big of a deal. We're not going to play it right at this point. We'll get this all fixed once we go across. So lastly, because we have a couple items on the books right now, I'm going to right click on base item again, and let's create another C++ class from this. And this one I will call craftable base item. And inside the items, I'm going to add one more folder here. I'm going to go craftable, make sure it is in the plugin runtime, and select create class. Delete the folder path, and in here it's not going to see it very well, so let's make sure we include it here. It'll fix it up. I'm going to delete the original. So now that we have that, let's head into the craftable base item.h, and we will go public. We will make a tmap, tsoft class pointer of type ubase item, and an int 32. We will call this ingredients. Then we will go int 32 amount when crafted, and both of these will have a U property, edit anywhere, blueprint read only, and a category of inventory items crafting. And I'm just going to copy this U property and move it down to this integer here. And then we don't have anything in the CPP file right at this point, so we'll just leave that blank. And I'll show you back in the editor where we were getting this information from. Okay, these are going to take effect of what we now have as our original files. All right, so make sure you go ahead and compile all that and jump back into the editor. All right, so in the world item, we're going to have a few errors because we deleted those variables. So let's just go ahead and clean up these errors. The set look at, we can probably just go ahead and delete this entire function. It's going to be remade as soon as we reparent it. And while we haven't done anything with the interact yet, I want to keep this here, but let's go back to the class settings, and under inherited and implemented interfaces, we are currently implementing the BI interactable. But if you remember, we got the new interact interface that will inherit as soon as we parent this class. So I'm just going to go ahead and delete this. And it's going to ask me, do you want to transfer the interface functions to be part of your blueprint? I'm going to say yes, just so I have this here. So that way we can create the interact function. We can remember what we did with that interact function. So I'm just going to say yes. All right. So now it's going to take both the interact and the set look at and turn them into regular functions. Again, we don't want the set interact. So I'm going to delete that, or the set look at, delete that. We still have the interact just like we left it, but it's a regular function. It's not part of the actual interface. So let's go into the construction script now. We've got this error here. So like I said, we're not going to implement custom billboards at this time. So I'm just going to delete that from the construction script. And if we compile it, we should get a clean compile from there. So now one thing I did realize is actually we had created the blueprint here, BP base item, that we included in the plugin content folder. This is what we want to use as our base item class. Remember, we opened it up, we got all of the information just like we have in the original base item. However, we still have, if we go up here to inventory items, we still have this BP base item. Everything is based off of this still. We have not reparented anything as far as this class goes, and we kind of need to. So what I think we're going to do here is, in my lead project, I did this a little bit differently and it was kind of messy. So I'm hoping if I do it a different way that it won't be as messy. So I think if we go back here to the content folder, and nothing's reliant on this. Now I tried deleting this one and then it asked me what I wanted to replace all of its references with, and I told it the other one. But like I said, it was super messy. It didn't fix everything up. So hopefully if we delete the one we created that doesn't have any current references and then just move this, that it will be a lot cleaner. So I'm going to delete this one. There shouldn't be, well, we got the BP true first person is relying on it right now. Let's go, well, we can't replace the reference yet. Let's go cancel real quick. Let's come out to the old BP base item. I'm going to double click it and open it up. So you can see here, parent class is object. Let's go ahead and reparent this and cross our fingers that we're not going to get any errors when doing this. So let's go the base item. Now we want to do the CPP class, which would be this one. Select it, and there we go. It reparented it. We only got one error with the use item. I'm going to compile it, and we still have it. So if we come over here, let's just go ahead and delete the function. Yes. And the reason why we have the error is because we have the original function in C++ code, and we didn't expose it to be blueprint callable. So that's why we got the error there. So now you can see we have the variables. The old variables are here, but they have a 0 in front of them. That's because we created all the new variables here. So let's go delete static mesh 0, thumbnail 0, despawn 0, and the billboard texture, it looks like we can leave that one there. Compile it, see what happens. All right, so we had a clean compile there. So this is just the base class, so we really shouldn't have anything mixed up with this. So if we try to play it, let's see if we get any other errors. So because we made the change, we're going to have to save the other packages. So that's all it's doing here for me. All right, so before it plays, it tells me we have all these errors here, and I'm going to click open all errored blueprints. So it says there is 3: inventory slot, dragged inventory, and crafting slot. Most likely this is going to be because of those variables we deleted. So let's just go ahead and compile, and it's going to give us a list here, so we can select this. So because our class default is a 2D soft object reference, go ahead and delete the pin there, and then just plug it back in, and it's going to give us the resolve soft reference right there. Now if we refresh this node, it should fix the error. Refresh node, should fix the error. Compile it. There we go. We got a clean compile right there. So let's open up the next one. Looks like it's going to end up being the same thing. So let's disconnect that, refresh and refresh, compile. And the next one, yep, it's the same thing here. So let's just go ahead and disconnect there and then plug this straight in, compile it. There we go. Now if we push play, hopefully we shouldn't get any other errors. There it is, the true first person. So let's open that up. So where are the errors? Compile it. So right here, we are trying to spawn the world item. We haven't implemented the drop functionality yet. So I'm not too concerned about this because we're not going to be spawning this. So I'm just going to delete those pins and I'm actually going to delete the execution. We're not going to drop any items right now. Compile it and see what happens. There we go. Let's press play and try this again. All right, there you go. You can see our objects in the world, our world objects have disappeared. That's okay. We haven't set them up quite yet. I don't want to hover over them because if I do, I believe it will crash because I think the objects, the world objects are still there, but it doesn't know how to handle it because we changed some of our code. So I'm not going to look at where they used to be. If you do, you will end up crashing. So go ahead and exit out. So good. We were able to play with no more errors. So now let's go ahead and reparent some of our other blueprints. So now with that, I'm going to come back down here and I'm going to delete this original, and it's going to say the true first person is relying on this. So now that we reparented that, I can go base item, and this is the other one. And I know it's the other one because for one, it's not going to show me the same one. You can't replace it with the one you're trying to delete, but I can tell because I'm in version control and it shows it's checked out because I was just working on it. So this is the one I want to do. So I'm going to replace the references. Am I sure? Yes. Save my files. Okay, and like Unreal likes to do, it closed down all my open tabs. So let's go back to the player real quick, and then let's compile this just to make sure, and then hit play again, and there we go. Okay, so good, that worked. So now I'm going to come back into here, confirm that we deleted that file, and I'm going to go grab the BP base item and I'm going to drag it. I want it to be in this folder here in that, so that way it's included with the plugin. So I'm going to move it into the plugins content folder, move it here. There we go. It moved it successfully. But now let's go ahead and go up to the top of your contents folder, right click on it and make sure you select fix up redirectors. Now, all these had redirectors in them, so it's going to ask me to save them all. I have to check them all out because I'm in version control. And there we go. We should have that all fixed up and redirected. We have this down in here, so that was a lot cleaner process than what I had in my lead project. So let's just confirm by pressing play again, because it will not play if there was any issues with it. See, there you go. We got a compilation error. So let's go check this, compile it, see where the errors are at. And again, we're having the thumbnail issue. So I'm going to create a little bit of space in here. Resolve soft reference, and then plug that in. And then let's check these other ones. We've got this one as well. So there we go. I think that should solve all those errors. There we go. Let's try to play it again. And there we go. We played without issue. Let's go ahead and back out of here. So now let's go ahead and set up those other blueprints. Let's re-forward those. So open up your content browser and let's head over into the inventory, the items. So we've got food item here. So we have our base food item blueprint. I don't want to include this. We could probably include this into the content like we did with the base item. It's not as important because, you know, we just want to include the things that are going to work for the base plugin system. So we don't really need that in there. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to open this up. And right now you can see it's going to the BP base item. We don't want it to go directly to the BP base item. We actually want it to go to the food base item that we just created. Base food item right there. Go ahead and select that. May cause loss, continue reparenting. These aren't that big of classes. We don't have them hooked into really anything. So that's good. So now we have that. So this is going straight to the food item. Remember, this is going off of the BP base or going off of the base item. So just not off of the BP base item. So I'm going to open this back up now. Go back to craftables now because we created this craftable item. So right now this again is going off the BP base item. I want to go ahead and change this class settings and I'm going to base it off of the craftable base item, reparent it. And there we go. If we compile everything, we should be good. So now when we come back out here, we got the craftable health. So the craftable health, this should already be going to the BP craftable item. So we don't have to change this because this is what we just reparented. So everything should now be within the hierarchy without issue. Again, so if we come out here to the food, craftable food, BP red berry, We select that. Again, its parent is this one. This parent is that one, right? So the chain is there. We only had to change a couple of the main parent files, and you can eliminate some of this. Again, you come in here to the food. So we got the main craftable item, and this is, like I said, this is based off of the C++ class. So we changed this, and it's going to populate to all of its children here. So that's kind of why I did that. And then for food, because food is specific, that's why we broke it down here. I explained that in the original Blueprint series. And if we press play, let's make sure everything is lined up now. All right, we didn't get any errors. So let's go ahead and back out of here now. So now let's head over into the world item blueprint. All right, so if we did everything right, then this should be a fairly painless process. So now let's go up here to the class settings, go to the parent class. We want to go to world item, select, this is our C++ class, select that, see what happens. We get some compile errors. So let's see if we can't figure out what these are. I'm going to compile it again anyway, see if we get any more information in here. Here it says it's having the errors because it tried to create things that were already here. So if I delete this root, that was the original root, delete this billboard and delete this display mesh. These now belong here. We can't delete these because these were created in C++, so we can't delete these. So let's compile it again, see what happens. Cannot order parameters in inventory in function interact. Let's come in here into the function interact. So this is using the inventory function here. Now, again, this doesn't matter. We're going to rewrite this function in C++, but to get rid of the error, we could just disconnect it. What I'm going to do though, is I'm going to select this, come over here, and let's select the inventory component right here. This is our C++ class, the inventory component. I'm just going to go object reference and right click and refresh this node. So with that disconnected, you can see here, now we have in inventory. This is what we called it. This is from C++, but because we haven't implemented process item yet, and granted, this is target is AC inventory component. So because of that, none of these are going to fit into here, even though we just reparented this. So that's not a big deal. I'm going to leave that disconnected. I'm going to compile. We should be okay. All right. So you can see down here, it says cannot override interact as interact, which was declared in parent with a different signature. So I'm actually just going to delete that inventory input right there. And I'm going to disconnect the execution here. And I'm just going to go ahead and delete the function. And that's fine. We will come back. I know how that is set up. We will set up the interact differently. So if you're having that error and you can't get rid of it, then just delete it. It just didn't recognize the signature with everything in there. So now if we compile it, it should be good to go. So again, I'm just going to go ahead because it just opened up this interact function. I'm going to delete it so it doesn't get overridden from the C++ implementation. So there, it's there. These are unimplemented interfaces. So now if we compile it, it should compile just fine, but now we need to go out into the map, and these items here now, they've changed. We'll lift them up just a little bit. All right, so now if I select this, we need to come down here into the inventory section, world item. We need to set an item type. So I'm going to set this first one to be bread, BP bread, and I'm going to give it a quantity of, I don't know, 3. It doesn't matter at this point because we can't pick it up, but I'm going to set that anyways. And I'm going to grab the second one and I'll make this one red berries. Again, quantity of 4, and then select this third one. And I'll do berries again and give it 2. That should work. So let's go ahead and save the map, press play, and see what happens. All right, well, that's nice. Nothing popped up there. So go ahead and back out. So if we come over here now to, I don't know, let's go to the red berry. Let's open that up, see if there's anything in here. Open that up. Well, you can see here in its defaults, for some reason, some of this stuff got destroyed or deleted when we reparented. That's fine. So let's just go ahead and reset that up. I don't know, what did I have that to? I think I had red berries to cone. Some of this other stuff was here. I think this got deleted because we changed some of the soft reference, or the thumbnail, to a soft reference. And let's just go thumbnail of red berry and stack size. The rest of the stuff seemed to be pretty good, stayed the same. So let's check the bread because it's probably going to end up being the same thing. Yep, there we go. So select bread. Let's do, I don't know, let's just go capsule and display name, bread, thumbnail, bread. We'll do bread icon, compile it. Let's save everything. And now let's try playing again. There we go. So now they all popped up. So this scale, I got the scale on this one a little bit bigger. So now we hover over it and you see we've got the outline that's popping up around it. At least it did around that one. There it is. It's on there now. And you can see for some reason, you can see the green lines there, right? We're getting a lot of space for the hit trace there, and it's continuing to hit the same one over and over again. So let me back out. All right, well, you probably saw some errors pop up, and right at this point, it's going to be a little bit of a whack-a-mole as we go through, as we start reparenting things. It can get a little bit messy. I'm going to try to make sure to avoid some of this moving forward. I got some ideas to try to prevent some of this, but we're still going to end up having it because we're still piecing it together. So they're not quite playing nice because of the way we're setting it up between C++ and Blueprints. But so right now, all this, I'm in the crafting info window. It gave me an error here on this one. So I'm just going to come back in here. And it's because in the crafting C++ crafting item base class, we are passing in, this is actually a map of base item, but not of the blueprint base item. And we can fix that inside C++, but all this, like I said, all this code is going to end up being put inside of C++. So it's not that big of a deal that I'd make the blueprints work with it. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take this because this is functionality that we don't have at this point with the C++. So I'm just going to delete them to get rid of the errors and compile it. And that doesn't solve the initial error when we come back out here and with our items not quite displaying like they should be. We got the middle one displaying, but so let's go ahead and fix that. All right, so here's what I noticed with the problem. So if we come back out here and play, if we hit the tilde to open up the command prompt, I'm going to type show collision, and you can see, well, all the collision in the world, but you can see right there, we have these 3 large squares that hover around our world items. And if I were to hit this one right here, it's gonna do the right one. See how it just lit up out there? So that was a problem. So, and it disappears. It's still there, but it disappears from rendering view. If I select this one now, it's still going to hit that other one. But as we move through this, hit that one. See there, you can see that one lit up. So what that is caused by, let's exit out of here. Come back into the world item. Because we have the interact widget, we haven't actually set that up yet, but it's still there. And if you come over here and you look at its collision preset, it's set to UI, and our vision trace is using the visibility channel, and that is set to block. So if we come up here and we go custom, set visibility to ignore. And then the other issue we were having too that I noticed come up here to display mesh, and we're going to go back in C++ and change this. We had set the visibility to be ignore, and technically any changes we've made in there in the constructor isn't working because this is the root component. So I don't think we can alter those kind of things on the root component within C++. I'm not quite sure how that goes, but either way, the changes we make in there aren't effective anyways, because if you come over here and you click reset default property, it's going to come over here and it's going to automatically block visibility. And that's what we need to do. We need to block visibility. So I think the reason why I had ignore in there is because eventually we're going to create this interactable, and that's the channel we're going to use to trace on. We just haven't really implemented that yet in the C++ side of it. Right now, we're just using visibility. So go ahead and block that. And now with those two things set, if we come out here and hit compile, hit play, come down, and you can see now we're not hitting that. And if we come down here and now we're hitting that one, that one's lit up. Now it's not lit up, not lit up, and not, right? So there we go. That's set up. And I think this one's running a little bit long too, but I think we can probably quickly go and set up the interact widget. It's actually not that difficult. So first, let's head back into C++. I'm going to delete just to round it out real quick. Back in here into world item, CPP in the source file. If we come down in here, we've got these collision settings that we set right here: collision object type, world dynamic, response to all channels, block, and then we're telling the visibility to I put it overlap in here for testing, but we put it to ignore. I'm just going to delete all of this because it's not doing anything for us anyways. So no sense in having it in there. And then I'm just going to compile it, and there we go. And we shouldn't notice any difference when we reopen this. If we compile our world item, nothing changed in here. It looks exactly the same. So again, make sure that our collisions are set. So let's go ahead and create our interact widget. I'm going to open up the content browser in the C++. This is not in the plugin. I'm going to come into the C++ classes into my main folder. And I'm going to right click and go new C++ class. And this is going to be all classes, user widget. Select user widget. Next, I'll name this interact widget. Make sure it is in the standard game runtime and not the plugin, because we don't want to include this with the plugin. And I'm going to put this in a folder called widgets. Go ahead and create the class. All right, fix up the error, and there we go. So go ahead and I'm going to build it once again. Just go ahead and make sure it compiles back into the editor. All right, with that out of the way, I'm going to come down and I'm going to create a public section, create a couple properties here. It's going to be a uText block and forward declaration, a pointer, call it interact text, create another one, uText block, pointer, item, name. Give these a couple of U properties, U property, blueprint, read and write, and the important one, meta equals bind widget. Both these can be the same. So I'm going to copy it here, come down and put it there for that one. Then at the end of this, give me a little bit of space, do another public section for functions. I'm going to create a function called set interact text. It's going to be void. It's going to be constant f text called interact action, and then another const f name called name, and it's going to be a constant function. And for this, let's create a u function, and it is going to be blueprint callable. So let's go ahead and create a definition for this. And in this definition, let's go const f string, call it from text, and it's going to equal an f string. We're going to go print f text %s, comma, and we need to dereference the interact action, and we need to transform it to a string. Create another one, const f string, call it from name. It's going to equal another f string, print f text %s, comma, dereference the name and convert it to string. There we go. So now we come down and call interact text set text, and we're going to set it to f text from string from text. Then go item name again, set text f text from string, and it will be the variable from name. All right, so that's all we need to set in this for now. So let's go ahead and build it and head over into the editor. All right, so let's head down into the content browser, come down to our folders here, the new C++ interact widget that we created, right click on it and go create blueprint from based on interact widget. And I will call this WBP underscore interact widget. And I want to put it into my widgets folder, create blueprint, and there we go. So now with this will be fairly easy to do. Let's grab a panel. We're going to get the horizontal box, drop it in here, and let's go ahead real quick and change this from fill screen to desired on screen. And then inside the horizontal box, we just want 3 text boxes, 1, 2, and 3. And then let's grab a couple spacers, and I'm going to put it in between the first and second, and then another one between the second and third. And for these spacers, just while we're at it, I'm going to give it a size here, just in the first one, a size of 5 and a size of 5, because otherwise it's not going to space our text out properly. And you may have to adjust this based off of the size of your text that you do. For now, it's going to be okay for what I have. And then in this first text box, I'm just going to type the text here. I'm going to say interact to, and I'm going to put a space after it. The space before and after doesn't really do much for you, but I'm going to put it in here anyways. And then hit enter. There we go, interact to. Then on the second one, let's go ahead and make this a variable, and we need to give it the name that we just gave in the C++, because this is what we're binding to. So this needs to be the interact text. If this isn't the exact same name, you will get errors, but make sure it is variable checked. And then for this, just for some default text, I'm just going to write do something. And just because I want to put a space before and after, but again, like I said, it doesn't really matter in this. It looks like in here that it does something for you, but when you actually play, it does not. So this last one, again, we need to make this one a variable, and this needs to be item name, because that's what we named it in C++. And its default text, I'm going to write space with item. That doesn't need to be capital either. Doesn't really matter. Interact to blank blank. So interact to pick up bread, right? Something like that, whatever it's going to come out to. So we got that all in there. Go ahead and compile it. Now head back to your world item, and for the interact widget, select that. Now we need to come down here and select the widget class right here under user interface widget class. We need to give it WBP interact widget. Make sure it's the Blueprint one, not the C++ one. Select it. And then we need to come here under user interface, the space. We need to change it from world to screen. Then we need to change the draw at desired size and enable that to true. And I'm going to lift this up a little bit. I'm going to give it a height of, I don't know, maybe 56. Go ahead and compile it. So before we can play with it, let's head over here into the event graph, take our function, override set widget indicator. That's the function we created in C++. I'm going to disconnect that. And then from here, I'm going to get the interact widget. I'm going to get widget, and then I'm going to cast to WBP interact widget, plug in the execution. And then if we succeeded from here, then I want to set interact text, and then we'll just plug this in, interact text into the interact action, display name into the name, and then plug this into the execution here. We want to return a value of true. And if we fail to cast, then we want to return false. Compile it and let's see how it looks. Okay, you can see they turn on right off the bat. They show in the world, and we don't want that. But when we come up here, it says interact to pick up bread, interact to pick up red berries, interact to pick up red berries. And every time we look over, we get that. So you can see here, as we move around, that's why I kind of did it, was no matter how you view the item in the world, we get that. Now, again, you're still going to get that if you have the text down in the bottom of the screen. So let's go ahead and fix that so it doesn't show when we initially start the game. And in order to do that, back here in C++ in the world item.cpp, I forgot a line of code here. So in the begin play, at the very end here, after the else statement, we will go interact widget, set visibility, false. You can do that in Blueprints if you want. I'm going to hard code it here in C++ and go ahead and build it one last time. Head back over into the engine, hit play, and there we go. They're not there. So we come up, we hit it, interact to pick up red. It's there as long as we're viewing it. Interact to pick up red berries. And there we go, interact to pick up red berries. So everything is finally working like it's supposed to. I apologize for a little bit. Felt like I fumbled around a little bit with a few things. That's just what we have when you start replacing some of the blueprints with C++. I will try to minimize that moving forward. We're not going to be able to minimize all of it just because we're incorporating into a system that already exists. So there's a lot of inner working parts. So hopefully it won't be as bad moving forward, but either way, it gives you a good idea of how to do some debugging when you're doing things like this, because no matter what, one of the most important skills a programmer can have is the ability to debug everything that's going on. So with that, thanks for watching. Hope you guys learned something in this video. If you did, do me a favor, go down, hit that like button. If you're new to the channel, subscribe while you're down there liking it. Hit the notification bell so you can be notified whenever we drop a new video. If you got any questions, leave them down in the comments or come on over to the Discord and ask them over there. You'll get a lot more help than just from me, but a little bit more one-on-one. It's easier to communicate over there. Thanks for joining, and until the next one, peace.